Welcome to the Tabletop Gaming Guild podcast, a podcast all about the experiences and memories that board games with friends and family can create. On today's episode, we're going to discuss our favoriteest topic, ourselves. But before we get to that, we're just going to talk briefly about what we've been playing lately. As for myself, in the last couple weeks, I got a couple games to the table. One of them that I want to mention is Blackout Hong Kong. Blackout Hong Kong is a slightly older Alexander Fisher title. James, I think you would actually really like this game because it combines deck building and area control.
That sounds amazing.
And I have played this game only a couple times, but each time it's gotten a little bit better. And I've gotten better at the game. I've managed to accomplish more during the course of one game session. So there is a learning curve to it almost.
Blackout Hong Kong, is that about an earthquake that happens?
No, James, it's a power outage.
It's a power outage. I keep getting the messed up. There's one that's an earthquake that I can never remember the name of. It came out at the same time. So it's a power outage. Blackout Hong Kong. Yeah, all right, that makes sense.
Yeah. The other game I'm going to mention is Serenissima. I'm sorry, was this the game I mentioned during the bluffing episode that got axed or not?
Yeah, so it's a free game.
Okay, so brand new. Okay, the second game I'm going to mention is Serenissima. This was a game that was gifted to me by James, so it came through the cycle, as it were. We've played this game twice now. Both times it's been very interesting. On the surface of it, it's basically just like a pick up and deliver game set in the Mediterranean Sea, where you have these ships and you're moving around cargo cubes and you're making deliveries to make money. You can also load your ships up with sailors/soldiers and attack ports to basically conquer them. There's two scoring phases and then an end game scoring. Each time you earn a certain amount of money based on the ports you control and how many goods have been shipped to them and whether or not you've built any basilicas. And you all get payment in money based on these things. And of course, money is victory points at the end of the game. But the game has several really interesting push and pull mechanics where you have to make interesting opportunity cost style decisions in terms of what goods to ship, where to ship them to, how to load your boats, because the more soldiers that are in your boats, the farther they can move, but the less cargo they can carry. And then the more effective they are in combat with the more soldiers. So yeah, a lot of interesting things going on in this game.
Yeah, I actually never played the game. It was sitting there and I was like, I'm never playing this game. Now I feel like I need to play the game because it sounds awesome.
Yeah, I played this game. I also got rid of it, but I don't really even remember it. It's not really a good sign. I've completely forgotten about it. I'm looking at images and they're really not bringing up much for me.
Or you might have done the same thing I did and be like, I'm not going to play it.
I'm pretty sure I played this, but I'm...
I've done that.
To be fair,
I am not convinced that he has played this yet.
to be fair, I think the board has got sort of that washed Euro look. And it is the box that I have is the second edition. The first edition of this game is something of an older bird. Let me see if I can find this.
I shouldn't even judge a book by its cover anyway, because I like really ugly games like Castles of Burgundy. I love that game. That is hideous. I love that game.
Yeah, my second edition is from 2012. The game originally released in 96.
Okay. So, I guess I'll jump into my games real quick. I'm going to go over one that was in our Lost episode, which was super sad because I'm sad. But I really feel like I need to talk about it because I really, really love the game, and that's Star Wars Outer Rim. Star Wars Outer Rim is currently my favorite Star Wars IP game. It even beat out Star Wars Rebellion, which is crazy because that game is amazing. But Star Wars Outer Rim plays like Firefly in less time and is tighter. You still have a lot of things you can do. There's still a lot of map that you can go over. Things just seem a little bit more streamlined. You move through at a faster pace. And goals seem clearer in it. You can still get lost wandering around and doing things. I mean, I did because I just there's just some cool things you want to do. So I did them. It's how it works with a game like this, a sandbox game that I play. I just really think it was really, really good. I'm really jealous that Nathan got the expansion and got to play with it, and I haven't yet. I just think that was a really well done, really good game that I immediately purchased. Technically, my kids asked me what I wanted for Father's Day, and I said that. So I immediately got it when I got back, and I'm just loving it. It's just amazing.
Before you continue, do you want me to actually talk about the expansion?
Yeah, go for it. Go about the expansion, yeah.
Might as well, so we're on the subject. So, yeah, as you said, Outer Rim, awesome game. Potentially one of my favorites of the year. It's pretty early in the year still. We'll see. The expansion, I was actually surprised. It fixed a lot of small problems that I really wasn't sure if I had a problem with yet. I was kind of feeling them out as, okay, there's little things where it could be tweaked. They fixed it all. One of the things, they give you extra dice, so you don't have to pass dice anymore. They gave you, I think, 6 dice in the base game. Now they give you 3 more, so 9. So each person has, if in a 3-player game, each person gets 3 dice, which is enough for most things until you start leveling up. But the other thing they've added is they've added a bunch more characters, and they've added contracts so you can hunt down other players. So you have bounties and things, and you can hunt down other players. You can hunt down the player characters that aren't in the game as well. So that's kind of cool. They also gave you the ability to loop. So the base game, the board is just like a crescent shape. It's just basically very linear. You go from one side of the galaxy. Then if you have to go to the planet on the other side of the galaxy, you have to track all the way across, which is cool and it works well. But there are times where you wish you could just jump from, loop around back to the other side rather than have to go the whole way. And with this add, it's a couple core worlds. And at the core worlds, you can spend a special action to, possibly jump and maybe take some damage doing it. So that's pretty cool. A lot of fun. They gave you a lot more cards in this game, a lot more things you can do without adding any real complexity to the game. So I'm really thrilled with this expansion.
In the D6 Star Wars RPG game, which is not canon, by the way, anymore, but in the D6 Star Wars RPG game, there was a little section for hyperspace travel, and in the RPG rules, you can legitimately insta-die from hyperspace travel. So, I bet no one ever followed that from the RPG, but yeah.
That's more like a Zaya thing.
I mean, yeah, but they don't respawn. They're just dead.
True.
So the last 2 games I want to talk about, I'm only talking about them together because I want to talk about 8-minute Empire Legends. So I want to talk about the first one so I can tell you the difference about the second one. 8-minute Empire is not an 8-minute game. So it takes about 15 minutes to maybe 20 to play. But 8-minute Empire, the original game, is a set collection area control area majority game. So in the game, you're going to get points for the sets that you complete, and you're going to get points for if you have the most regions, and then if you have if you control, or you get a point for each region you control, and you get a point if you have the most regions in a continent. The person with the most points at the end of the game wins. The key to the game, though, is that there is a market row across the top, and you have a set number of coins that can't change. So you'll get 7 or 11 coins based on player count, You're going to bid with these coins to go see who goes first, and you will lose those coins when you bid, or if you win the bid. So you'll have less coins, and you have to use these coins to purchase better cards on the market row, or you have to wait till they get down to free. These cards have a set on them, so there will be like coal, carrots, or whatnot, and different sets have different rarities on there, and they have different point values for however many well, they don't have different point values. They have different numeric numbers of these that you have to get those points. But you're going to get that card, but what's really important about that card, it tells you what you can do on your turn. It gives you your action too. So when you get that card, it's not only you're trying to balance getting points for your set collection, but you're also trying to balance your actions on the board, because you want to make sure you can move your troops, create castles, get those areas, get the majority in those regions, get the majority of the regions in a continent, and get those points. That's 8-Minute Empire. 8-Minute Empire Legends has the area control mechanisms for regions and continents, but it pretty much removed the set collection portion. Instead, you have asymmetric powers. You can be like a race, and you also have a variable setup for where your units start out on the board. It's virtually the same game except for that, but when you get these cards, they can get some new actions on them, including getting more coins. So in the original game, there's no way to get more coins. You spend them, they're gone. In 8-Minute Empire Legends, you can get coins back. I sort of like it, but I don't know if I like it better yet. I like the asymmetric powers, but I love the pure simplicity and strategy of the original game. I like the push and pull of the set collection versus area control. I like that. I think that was a big strategy in what cards you got, because you can get a ton of points from the set collection, and you can get a ton of points from the area control, but you don't want to ignore other people. So there was a lot of interaction. There's still a lot of interaction in there, but I don't think that there's as much with the market row, which I think was a big bonus in the game. But I'll play it a couple more times and see. But those are the two major things I wanted to talk about. Nathan, did you have any more since you're halfway there?
Yeah, sure. I've also been playing more of Wildlands, which we talked about previously. And I wanted to touch base with this again because, the repeat plays have actually changed my feelings of this game quite a bit. Where, the first couple of times I played it, I really enjoyed it. It was fun, silly, a little bit random. And I enjoyed it. I won most of the time, was close to winning, but then I had a few bad games where it just felt really, really way too random. And my enjoyment of this game has kind of gone down, whereas I was rating it an 8. Now it's maybe a 6.5. So that's the main reason why I wanted to revisit this one. It just feels like when things go bad for you, sometimes it feels like they're just luck is out to get you.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a big drop, though. All right, so Evan, what have you been playing?
So, over the last week, I've been playing 2 games. They are exactly the same games that I mentioned the last time I recorded, because apparently I am a creature of habit, and it just so happened to be exactly what it is. The only one that I'm really going to mention, though, is I got to play Role Player. Again, this time with 4 players, and 2 people were completely fresh to the game, and I just started it off, including the expansions, the Minions expansion, Monsters and Minions. We probably got by the time I taught the game and we finished it was probably about an hour and a half in, and the gameplay worked really well. Everyone really enjoyed it. So much like I said before, it's a dice drafting game where you're creating an RPG character. What's really nice is as you're drafting die, it goes into an initiative row where as the die are pulled out of the bag, they're assembled from lowest to highest. If you take one of the lowest die, you get to, in the next round, buy your equipment, skills, traits for your character, and it goes in the order of who bought the lowest die to the highest die. So if you're going to buy that 6, you're probably going to be buying stuff last. So potentially you can lose out on equipment that you might want. People can get rid of stuff that's in that row for a gold coin, which could screw you over. What this adds is there's now another option where you can fight minions and get XP, which do a bunch of other things. And at the very end of the game, there's one major monster that you fight for bonus points for at the end of the game. So it just added that little bit of extra. So when you play the main game, you build a character, but you don't really do anything with it. This, you actually do stuff with your character through it. So it makes it feel a lot better. It added a little bit of complexity, but nothing that really made it too much more. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
That's still a game that I really, really want to play and never got to it. I have a soft spot for dice drafting games or anything in that area. So I definitely have to play that with you sometime here. So how about you, Peter? What have you been playing?
So games have not been happening as much for me recently, which is very sad. But I have been doing a lot of reading of games. And so a lot of RPG game books that I've been reading through. The one board game that I have played recently is, I guess, what we would probably call a modern classic at this point. It's a few years old, and that would be Wingspan. And sadly, I lost by like 2 points. But it was, I think, if I remember correctly, I think this was the first time I've ever played with European expansion. It takes me ages to get around to throwing expansions in because I don't get to play games often enough to feel like I know the game fully. So I played it with a buddy of mine who we've played it a few times together. We threw the European expansion in there. I liked the powers that were added in with the European expansion. I know they added in a ton of birds. They added in the powers. Obviously, since the European expansion, they've come out with 2 more expansions. One of them kind of really just revamps the entire game. So eventually I will get to those probably 3 years from now. We'll see how it goes. I still really like Wingspan. You're drafting these bird cards and you're laying them out onto your tableau, collecting them, and you're trying to earn obviously the most points. Some of the birds are worth smaller amounts of points, but they might be able to hold more eggs, and eggs are points at the end of the game. And some birds are worth a whole crap ton of points, but they have no powers and they can barely hold any eggs in their nest. So you just have to try to choose your method. And so it's a fun game. I really like it a lot. It's very low key, not a lot of interaction at all in that game. It does come with a really good like AI component. So if you just want to play one player, they did a really good job creating that component for the game as well. We played it online together because this is a friend who lives in another state, and there are some really good digital versions out there as well, including the official one for Tabletop Simulator and the official digital version, which is beautiful. And that is, if you're a TGG person, you might know as my Bob Ross video. So it's a good game. It's the only one that I've really gotten to play lately. I've been reading a ton of Runes of Symbaroum 5e by Free League Publishing. This is their 5th edition. So it's like Symbaroum. It's got a big line of books for Symbaroum, but they decided to release that same setting, but for the 5th edition core rule set. And I am absolutely in love with it. I think it's going to be a little bit more, like not a ton more, but a little bit more unforgiving for the players as they go out adventuring, which I feel like 5e doesn't really do a lot. 5e does a lot of really good things, I think. But I think this is going to add a little bit more to the tug of war of, we want to go adventuring, but we really don't want to die. And so this one has some really great added mechanics to that. And we just recently released a video of me going through the player's guide for that book, and it's really phenomenal. Free League does a great job every time. So I'm going to be reading the rest of those books and putting out some videos for that, and I cannot wait to run a game of Runes of Symbaroum for you guys.
Yeah, I read through the non-5th ed version, and I really liked how... Now, it's not like a system where they're like trying to TPK everyone.
Right.
It's more of like it's a system where you have to take responsibility for your action more than just dying. Like, you know that you're not a god in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go jump into a horde of whatever, you're not coming out.
Yeah, this is not epic hero fantasy. This is, I'm a Joe Schmo who wants to go adventuring, and there's a really good chance I'm not actually prepared for what this forest is going to throw at me. And you have to know when to pull the ripcord, when to get out. Because I'll just throw in there real quick, probably my favorite thing they added in here was the adjustment to the resting mechanism in the game. Because in 5th ed, you take a short rest, you get a good amount of hit points back. You take a long rest, it's only 8 hours, you get everything back, all your spells, all your hit points, you are back to full. And that's it. So an 8-hour rest. In this one, it is a short rest, you get a little bit of hit points back. Long rest, you might get a little bit more hit points back, but you don't get any of your hit dice, which allows you to get more back. You don't get any of those back. And you do not get everything back until you have gone home to a safe place and spent 24 hours resting and not adventuring at all. So the longer you're out there adventuring, the tougher it gets.
Which makes sense. So if you're in an
totally
enemy camp and you're just like, I'm taking a nap, nothing bad will happen. Don't worry about it. It's fine. 8 hours later, I'm good. Yay. No.
Yeah, no, it gives that slight little bit more of realism in this fantasy world. So I'm super excited by it. And that's just one of the added things that they threw in there. But I think it's probably the one that I think will make the most difference for the players as they start to realize their mortality. So yeah. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing a little bit of games, but mostly a lot of reading for games. So.
That's cool, because I'm looking forward to playing it. I think it's going to be awesome.
Heck yeah.
So I already even know who I'm going to be in it, so it's going to be fun. Well, I mean, that's all about the GM having to approve it because of the way the sessions run, but yeah.
Oh, no, I can't wait to see what you got, buddy.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and go into our main topic, and we're going to start with Dan, because he led things off. And I like throwing people under the bus, because, why not? So we're going to get to know each other here, and you're going to get to know us through the show, so you can get some background on a host, and you can understand what our preferences are. So when we do reviews or talk about games, you can understand where we're coming from a little bit better. So that way, if we don't like a game, you can maybe think, well, maybe he didn't like the game because he doesn't like that type of game, sort of thing, So we're going to start off, and we're just going to basically go off with, Dan, what got you into the hobby in general?
Well, let's see. What is my origin story? I was bitten by a radioactive spider, you see, and I'm sorry, wrong origin story. So I started gaming somewhere in my early teens, 12, 13, and we got into role-playing games first. It was me, my younger brother, and a friend of his, and maybe one other kid, and we played a lot of bad RPGs from that era. Because of like leftovers from the Satanic Panic. We didn't play Dungeons and Dragons. We played stuff like Middle Earth role playing and the Hero system and a couple other things that I'm probably forgetting. Really crunchy, like mechanically and mathematically systems from like the 80s. If you can imagine those, if you have any connection with those. So that's where I started. I sort of had a second origin story too, because like, high school, not too many years later, somebody had the bad idea to introduce me to Magic the Gathering, and I've been playing that ever since, more or less, off and on. When I started working at the store, that took a completely different direction, because like I registered to be an official tournament organizer. I studied and took a test to become a certified judge, and I've been running official Magic events since then. But my love of RPGs hasn't changed since it's really started. I just haven't had as much time to participate in them. And then board games are relatively recent compared to both of those two, because I would say that was been the last maybe 5 years.
Yeah, so that's like an evolution from like the lesser to the greater. Yeah, talking about like the D&D panic thing. I want to have an episode or part of an episode where I talk about Stranger Things and my thoughts on like their stance on it. Because I'm briefly gonna say, like, I'm not gonna explain it right now, but it seems like they're like making it a joke that it was like that satanic panic, and then from the first couple episodes, they're making it seem like it's real. So, yeah. But, yeah, I'll talk about that later, because I think that's a really cool topic for how that show runs, but has nothing to do with this. But, so let's go ahead and we'll go with what got Nathan into the hobby.
Mine's a little less clear. I mean, I started relatively recently into board gaming about 8 years ago. Although before that, there was a little bit here and there. I started playing when I was a kid. I played a few classic games like Diplomacy, Boulder Dash, Battle Masters, but I never really played them often, like maybe once or twice a year. And then about 15 years ago, I got into Carcassonne and Settlers of Catan, or now it's Catan. And I enjoyed that. And that's took a while to gestate, and eventually I started gaining some interest in board gaming, and James helped with getting interested. And at one point I just went online and saw, oh, there's a huge sale on board games. I'll go get all these board games for under $10 each. And I bought like 30 games and enjoyed a lot of them, even though they were like 70% off. And, I think part of it was that triggered my acquisition disorder. And that's part of what got me into board gaming, just the collector habit and just the joy of having all these things that cost so much money and drain my bank account.
Yeah, I'm just about the same way. I started off playing a lot of games when I was a kid, like your Risk, oh man, my brain just went blank. So I played your Risk. I played Axis and Allies. Axis and Allies was one of my favorite games. We played a lot of oh man, what's that? What's the game with the barbarian, the dwarf, and the elf?
Hero Quest.
Hero Quest. Yes. Wow. I played a ton of Hero Quest. In fact, I played it to the point where my board game fell apart, and I kept it. Why? Who knows? But I had my Hero Quest game, and then someone offered me like $300 for it, so I sold it. Everything was broken in it, and then they reprinted it. So, ha! That's a different story. But basically, what ended up happening is in the late '90s to early 2000s, Magic the Gathering. I got in it in alpha and beta in the late '90s, and kept with it until probably 2002, 2004, when I sold my entire collection of boxes and boxes of cards for nothing.
Wait a second. Wait, you can actually get out of Magic?
I got out of it twice.
I didn't think that was possible.
So after that, I worked a lot of home improvement jobs and stuff like that, and I worked on getting my degree for software. But I didn't actually start playing again till later. when I got back into Magic the Gathering again. Basically, when Magic the Gathering had that recurrence when everyone was jumping back in, I did.
So you relapsed.
Yeah, only I was worse this time because in the late 90s, early 2000s, tournaments weren't really that well organized or talked about or easy to get to. And in that time, we had Scry magazine, which would tell you the prices of the cards, and you could go trade off of those. And there was no real like super internet thing where people did much. There was some, but mainly that Scry magazine was the big thing. They could trade cards through as long as you had the right month. But later on, I really got back into it. I got back into it so much that I did tournaments. At NDC, I would always do their pre-releases, play at those, and they had a couple there too. And I spent a lot on modern decks. And I was working on legacy decks, and some of my decks were in the thousands. That's not a huge number for legacy decks because I didn't have one done. People spend a lot more money, but what ended up happening is I played a friend's copy of Settlers of Catan, and I played that, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. How much is this game? And it's like $40. I'm like, I just bought a card that was $100. I could buy 2.5 of these. And then I started watching The Dice Tower, and then life ended. So basically, I ended up actually selling my entire Magic collection again and using that money to buy an entire board game collection, like literally hundreds of games. It was insane. And that was me.
So that's James, everybody. All in or all out.
Yeah, I'm very obsessive compulsive, so I can never touch Magic again, ever. They almost got me on that D&D. Magic. They almost did it. I don't know how I found the willpower.
I know, it's really weird how they merged Monopoly and Magic together.
I know. It's just like, I don't know. That's some voodoo witchcraft stuff that they did there. I don't know.
How much is the Boardwalk card, Dan?
The Boardwalk card, also known as Black Lotus, is probably several $1,000s.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
My friend at work has a full playset. Now, you can't use a full playset, but he has one, and one of them signed. So I don't know that. I think it would reduce the value if you have it signed.
It depends on the market.
Yeah.
Depends on who signed it. I didn't sign it. If I had signed it,
Well, not the artist, the actual artist.
I know. Just kidding.
Yeah, usually it's by the artist.
Yeah, it's like,
for sure.
Found some guy on the street. Like, signed.
Hey, you signed this.
I have a couple signed cards in my collection, and there's 4 or 5 cards that were all signed by the artist. The artist's name is Charles Orbach. I got him to sign some cards since he's something of a personality in like local convention circuits. And then the only other card I have signed in my entire collection is a Dark Confident. Confident I got signed by Bob Maher. Bob Maher was the winner of the championship that made the Dark Confident card exist, basically.
Fair enough. So, Evan, what got you into the hobby?
Well, it was a balmy day back in June of '85, and sorry. I digress. So growing up, my dad was in the military, so we had a couple moves until we kind of settled down in Pennsylvania. And one of the things that did come, because making some of those moves, it was, don't keep a lot, don't pack light, to make moves successful. One of the things that my dad managed to keep was his large collection of Avalon Hill games, and a few of his original first edition D&D books. So much like you guys, like some of the first games that I played was Risk, Hero Quest, but it was only stuff that I could play once, maybe twice a year, and that was really about it. And then I got to probably about like 9 or 10, and my dad actually let me play a couple of the AV Hill games with him. Squad Leader, Midway, Gettysburg, and granted, we would only play those maybe once or twice a year also, but it was something that was way, way different than playing Risk or anything like that. And that really sparked a lot of interest in military history for me, which we'll cover a lot later here. But I have an affinity for those games. But also, that also brought the playing of first edition D&D with him and actually a couple friends. So I still have some of the books laying around somewhere that were his, but we would play that once a month, maybe twice a month if we got really lucky. And we played like the old first edition modules and stuff like that. Characters would die left and right, but it was glorious. It was so much fun. And much like that age, though, your friends leave, you get new friends, and kind of parties and whatnot, split up. And I got to a point that I really wasn't playing a whole lot. And then our one of our new people that just joined the channel, John, I met him when I was 15, and he had a similar interest as I did, playing D&D, and also, much like a lot of you too, I also was addicted to Magic the Gathering. I started playing right around Ice Age, and I was in it really hard. John and I and a couple of our friends, we would go to pre-release tournaments when they were held in the convention center in Pittsburgh, where you have to go all the way down there to do them. I did quite a few of those, and we eventually there was a place just, I moved in with John, I can't even remember when, but we lived together for a while, and there was a place just down the road from us that it used to be a internet service provider and do tech support. They moved to somewhere else, and the upstairs of it turned into kind of like this cafe. And once a week they would do board game nights, and we would go there. And one of the first modern games that I would really played was Ticket to Ride, and I really enjoyed that. And I slowly kind of picked a game here and I picked a game there from what we played there, what I saw, and that's led to a very large collection of many other things that I have now. And I too got out of Magic the Gathering, and I sold my entire collection for pennies on the dollar. It was still a lot of dollars that I got for it, but I weep thinking of how much I could have had now.
Now, I will say I do remember why I got out of Magic the first time. And it was a Morodin series with Amir. And I made a couple broken decks. And then they started banning the crap out of the cards. And I was like, heck with this. If I spend all this money to get these decks going, they can't be banning these cards. And I quit. So I do remember that.
I think my final straw was once internet copies of deck lists that
I like that
like major tournaments.
Yeah.
Like was so easy to find. And then you would go to like Friday Night Magics and you would see 4 copies of that, and I would be like, this is now not fun.
Yeah, so you would hate me because I always net decked, and then I always modified the net deck. So I would modify it based on yeah. So
boo.
Yeah, that was me. I did it the entire time. I net decked, and then I would modify the net deck. But all right, so now that everyone has gone, oh yeah, oops, I forgot about Peter. Whoops. Oh, I'm
It's
so
all right. I don't even need to be here, folks. I don't even need to be here.
So now, Peter, what got you into the hobby?
So I was trying to think about this because obviously my first thought was, I just kind of got into it recently with you guys, but as I was thinking more about it, I've like a lot of you said, I've played board games somewhat my whole life. I have very distinct memories of being very young and my mom and dad and their friends getting together and playing some games. 2 games specifically were played a lot with my mom and dad and their friends. Games that I personally would not play much today, just because one of them is not really my style of game as much anymore, and that is Trivial Pursuit. But they had their friends, absolutely, they were all very again, James is so hardcore about what he hates, it kills me. For people out there who really like knowledge-based games or trivia games, Trivial Pursuit is kind of like the Monopoly of that world, because there's a Trivial Pursuit for every IP out there. I personally still own a Trivial Pursuit, though I've not played it in a good 15 or more years, and that is the Lord of the Rings Trivial Pursuit, which includes like movie trivia, all the stuff. So their friend group played that a lot, and then they also played Pit a whole lot. So card set collecting game where they would open the windows because they wanted the neighborhood to hear them yelling as everyone's calling out for trades. And so this is a market-based game, and they're trading cards and hitting the bell. And so thinking back, and then my family, as much as I am, my full-time job is I'm a librarian and I love books. I hate Scrabble, but man, my family played the crap out of Scrabble. And they still do. They love it. It is still a family game that gets played every so often. And then we played cards. We would play, but they would play Rummy, and games like that. And obviously the kids, we would play War, because there's nothing to that game. And so I started thinking about that. I was like, man, gosh, games, even with my parents, were a big thing when their friends got together. And so it makes a whole lot more sense today as I see myself surrounding myself with friends who also like playing games, and that being the pastime that we choose when we're together. But even after that, as I became like a teenager and my upper teenage years, I had a group that started getting together weekly, and we would play games, and they would usually vary. And I can't remember all of the ones that we would have played. Again, some of them being trivia based, mostly a lot of movie trivia, because that was just the people that I hung out with liked movies a lot. But then the board game that changed it for me was Betrayal. Betrayal at House on the Hill. That was the game. I know, right? That was the game that for me was like, oh gosh, this can be a board game. And just absolutely fell in love with that game. That group played that game so many times. We still never made it through. We never played all 50 of the adventures because we didn't play it that many times, but we did play it a lot. It's somewhere in the 20s, I would think. And for me at that time, that was the most plays I'd ever had of a game. So that was the game that kind of switched it. And then I left home and went to graduate school and lost that group because I wasn't with them. I was in a whole nother state, and my board gaming days ended until I met you guys. I did a little bit of board gaming. I did a little bit of board gaming at the library before you guys came along. I did a little bit with the teenagers there. I introduced them to Betrayal because that was the game that had done it for me. But around that time, I found Settlers of Catan and a couple other games. Carcassonne was another one. I pretty much was just searching the internet for what are good beginner games, so that I could introduce the teenagers at the library to them. And I had a pretty good steady group of teenagers who would come in and play games. And then you guys, and now I have way more games than I need. And I still have more that I, and I still have more that I want. So
yeah.
But yeah, so that's me. I know. I know that will never happen for me.
You say that now.
Oh no, it won't.
2 years from now, we'll be like,
divorce might come up in the conversion at that point. That's not allowed.
You have to do that chant. One of us. Let it happen.
No. So
well, I wanted to ask a question that's kind of offshoot of this original question. What is it for each of you that keeps you in board gaming? What is the one aspect of board gaming that most attracted you and keeps you interested? For me personally, as an example, is I am very socially phobic. I have some pretty serious issues with that. In fact, like sitting around and talking, I find physically painful just sitting around a table and talking to people. So for me, the structured socialization of board game, just being able to sit and being able to do something and not having to talk, but being able to talk, is phenomenally helpful for me. And it really helps me. It's really the only way I've been comfortable meeting new people and interacting with people like such as yourselves.
Yeah, it's the same for me too. Board gaming took me from a grumpy, antisocial person to a grumpy, social person. I used to be terrified to the point of like not being able to function for giving like speeches and for doing anything in public. And because of board games and because of how that lets me like baby step interact with people, I now have no problem doing a presentation to 500 people. I don't have a problem anymore. I don't have a problem presenting to corporate heads. I just don't have a problem anymore doing public speaking or doing anything. So for me, if I didn't get anything else out of playing board games, period, for the rest of my life, it would be worth it. Because that helped me with my career and it helped me with interacting in life in general. Oh, one real quick thing. Trivial Pursuit isn't the worst. I did like Star Wars Trivial Pursuit. I just wasn't any good at it. And I think Wits and Wagers just makes Trivial Pursuit not need to exist.
Side note to that side note, Star Wars Trivial Pursuit is the best because it has the R2D2.
The die at the time, it's a digital number.
Yes.
So good. And then people want to destroy it because you're like, dee-doo-doo-doo-doo, dee-doo-doo-doo-doo. So good.
It is so fantastic.
It is so fantastic.
Well, the big problem with Trivial Pursuit, if it's not an IP-based game version of it, they try to say so relevant, but in the time it takes them to produce a game, everything they have that's like mostly super current is now out of date, and nobody knows about it anymore.
But with Wits and Wagers, it doesn't matter because it's just
right.
Whatever. But yeah, that's why I like it. So I don't have to know what I'm talking about. I just have to guess if someone else does, which is great because if you give me trivia, I generally don't know what I'm talking about. So also, older games like Hearts and stuff. Oh man, so good. I played so many heart games when I was a kid. It was crazy, and some fond memories with that. But
yeah, what do you call it? When I was growing up, even before I started D&D, I did all the like common family games as well. I'm pretty sure before I was 12, my father taught me like Contract Bridge, and we played Pinochle among the family. Oh yeah, no, Contract Bridge. Keeping score.
That's a serious
games. Yeah,
that's a good example of an older game with very complex rules and interactions. Like that is a lifestyle game with that 52 deck of cards. Like it's insane. Like if you've never played it before and you play it with people that play it all the time, I hope you better learn real quick or die. It's like one of those things. Yeah. So Evan, how about you?
What keeps me in the hobby is James keeps messaging me and says, "Do you want this game?"
There you go.
Oh man, that is so true.
No, what for me, the big thing, like what has the appeal for like D&D or miniature games or war games or any of these things for me is my brain is always thinking about stuff. So for me to have games and whatnot, it's a way for me to utilize that in productive ways as opposed to drifting off into La La Land and thinking about good Lord knows what. So I think that's one thing that keeps me really into that.
Yeah, I mean, just keeping your mind running and keeping your mind thinking of new things and learning is big because if you don't have something like board games or, I guess, supports, if you're paying attention to stats, I'm not a sport guy, but if you don't have something where you're learning constantly, everything is proven that your brain will deteriorate. You will become less intelligent. You'll have harder time dealing with things, and you need those new experiences. So doing the same thing over and over again doesn't actually improve your brain. It has to be new experiences as you go and new things to learn. So yes, that's very, very important.
That is in the same vein as like my reason, I guess. So I see why I am still in board games is basically two explanations. One, I want to constantly expose myself to new things. Like, not that I'm always chasing Cult of the New, but like I have fun reading new rule books, right? And if I'm not stimulating myself with new material to learn that way, I am self-stimulating myself by creating new content for various things.
Yeah, I glad someone else loves reading. I love reading rule books. There's two things that I almost like more than playing an actual board game. One is opening it up, unpacking stuff, and organizing it. Which, arguably, for 99% of the games that I play, I like doing that better.
I love punching cardboard. I do. I love punching cardboard.
It's insane. You're like, have a long day, and you're like, I gotta do a game. I'm gonna open it up, and you're like, punch. Oh yeah, punch. Yes, punch. Yes.
Send all my new games to you, James. From now
So
on.
good. I will
absolutely.
love you.
Just send our games to James. They're gonna come back beautifully unwrapped and organized.
I want them punched, organized, labeled, like everything. Like when I pick it up, I want the rules explanation and every like.
Yeah, I love reading rules. Some rule books make me hate life, but most of them don't. Most of them are amazing. I like seeing how people think. So how they think they're explaining their game is really interesting to me, and also learning how the game works too.
I specifically need to send you my copy of Command and Colors Napoleonic because it's got like over 100 stickers. I think you have to put on these.
I would love to do that. That's fine. I really, really want to play that game too, because although it is not the first Command and Colors game, which GMT would tell you it is, it's not. It's not that Command and Colors system wasn't new when they did that. Other games used to do that. Like Battle Masters had it. Other games had it. They were just made it popular. But anyway, yeah, I will totally put all those stickers on for you, unless they don't come off the little papers, and then you're on your own. So, how about you, Peter? What keeps you in the gaming hobby? It's probably all of this.
Well, you're kind of close.
No, I hope
you're
not.
kind of close. No, the thing that really keeps me in the hobby is actually probably the thing that got me into the hobby in the first place. And it's not the games. It's the people that I'm playing them with. I like games. I really do. I enjoy them. No, I do not enjoy reading rule books. The one thing that definitely keeps me in the hobby is all of the wonderful people on YouTube who make wonderful intros to games. Yeah, I know. The people out there who make the videos and say like, here's how you play. Because I mean, if they get it wrong, that's fine. I'm going to be playing it wrong my whole life because I'm probably not going to look at the rule book to see how you play it right. But no, there's so many like that keeps me. But I am a social person. I get energy from being around other people, as much as I do sometimes like doing solitary things. But I love hanging out with people and talking to them and getting to know them. I like meeting new people. And so the board game world, sorry, my phone just went off. So the board game world is just so big. There's so many people out there playing games, and they're different from me or they're like me, and I get to meet them. And so that's the one thing I want to do more of. I want to be able to get to conventions and play games with more people and meet new people, because for me that's the hobby. The games are a huge part of it, but the people who play it are the bigger part.
Yep, I agree with that. Board game is nothing without the players and the interactions and the experiences you get from it. So, and I'd almost say, like, right now, since you're getting into the hobby, if they would not make another board game for eternity, you'd be great for the rest of your life with the board games that are out there. Although, don't stop making board games because I'm an addict and I want more board games. But, you know,
That's right, Eric. That's right, Eric M. Lang.
Yeah,
he did not say stop making them.
He's only put out 2 games so far since he left Simon.
know.
I'm like, get your act together. I need more games from you, the greatest designer on the face of the planet. You make Fister sad. You don't even have to put out very many games, and you're still better than them.
Whatever happened to Blood Rage 2?
I don't know. There was a slate of games that Simon said that he was going to produce for him, but there was no time frames for any of them.
Sorry, guys. I threw off the topic. I mentioned his name. The segue has begun.
The segue has begun. It is the end. It is the end. But no, I mean, to Dan's point earlier, what keeps me in the hobby isn't necessarily the newest games out. I mean, sure, if I can get a hold of it, I'm going to want to play it. However, there's so many games and so many experiences that I haven't had that I don't care when it is. Like, I'm super excited about playing Flamme Rouge, and how long has that been out? I've just never played it. I really, really want to play that game. I think it's going to be fun. Don't care if I don't like it in the end. It's just the experience and the thing of playing something new to me. So, yeah, I think Dan's point was really, really good. So, now, the very complicated and hard to answer question of what type of gamer are you? So, right now, as of right now, if you had to explain, so this is tabletop, so you would be what type of RPG game player you are, what type of miniature game player you are, what type of board game player. What drives you to like a game? So these are your criteria, not anyone else's, just your criteria of what you enjoy. So I don't know who wants to jump on that one first.
I'm going to jump in there real fast. I'm in. I'm jumping in there.
All right, cool.
I really want player interaction, whether it's a board game or an RPG. Again, like I said, I'm a people person, and it doesn't have to be take that. It can be a cooperative game, but I want player interaction. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't like games that are, I enjoy Wingspan. I said it earlier. It's the game that I've played the most recently, and I've played it a lot. I like it. But when it comes down to me deciding what kind of player I am a player interaction player. And I want it all. If there's take that, great. I want to swipe the card you wanted, and I'm going to laugh at you as I do it, and then I'm going to hate you when you do it back to me. Or if it's an RPG, running a game for other people, introducing them to the game, and how the thing that they do changes. As a game master, I plan out whole sessions that are supposed to take 2 to 4 hours. And within 15 minutes, all the players interacting with it just blow it out of the water, and I'm making stuff up as I go. That's what I love. So whatever mechanics the game may have doesn't matter so much to me as is it player interactive.
And I think that's completely honest from you too, because if you look at your top 10, although you liked Wingspan, it wasn't on there, I don't believe.
Not this time around.
Wingspan is a solitaire game.
Yeah, it really is.
It's a very solitaire game. There's almost no player interaction. There's slight, especially with the Oceania expansion and the European expansion, where you can have a trigger.
Yep. If
someone does something, but even that's so minimal.
Yeah, and another version of a game like that I really like. I really liked. I did a playthrough of Isle of Cats.
Okay. Oh man, I really want to play that game.
It's so good. I really enjoyed it. I absolutely loved it. It was great, but there's not really much player interaction. So it's not the game that's like, man, I got to get that on my shelf. I want to teach that to all my friends. I enjoyed playing it, but yeah. Definitely, I am a player interaction guy.
So, the one question for you, too. So, I know RPGs, they're highly interactive. Like you're going to be communicating the entire time. So going to board games, which don't have to be highly interactive necessarily. So would you prefer, like, if I brought 2 games to you, one was a take that game like Citadels, which is super high player interaction, a lot of table talk between the players, a lot of trying to figure out how people are playing and stuff like that, or I brought a cooperative game where everyone needs to communicate together. There's no quarterbacking. Everyone is just trying to get to a same goal. Which of those 2 would you prefer more often?
At this point, it would be the games that give me the take that.
Okay.
And the reason there is a lot of cooperative games can very quickly, depending on your group, end up being one person making all the decisions, everybody else following along. Which I have a lot of people that I try to introduce them to cooperative games, and that's the reason they don't want to play them, is because like, oh no, but I've got this one person in my group who just takes over, and it's going to happen every time, so we just don't even play those kinds of games anymore. It doesn't bother me as much because I like watching other people shine. So if somebody else is super smart and they've got it figured out, I don't mind just playing along. But I get more fun out of the take that. And so just a straight up board game that involves a fair bit of player interaction, and a little bit of take that I love, that we've talked about a ton already, is, so I would say Dune Imperium is a game that has a lot of cool mechanics, and that whole time I'm building up to like, man, I can't wait to get to that warfare. I cannot wait to just win by like 1 or 2 points. It's going to be so good. And then James crushes it by like 8 points. I'm like, what happened? I don't even know what just happened.
I like how you said like I win. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I got to make you feel good sometimes.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But no, the ones that give you the player interaction, again, there's a lot of really great co-op games out there. I can't wait to play Spirit Island. Right?
Oh my God, cool.
I know
it is so good. It is currently my straight up favorite cooperative game ever created.
Yeah, so I can't wait to check it out. But if you brought 2 games to me, one cooperative, one take that a little bit, that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah. And
I'm sorry, is that above Mansions of Madness already?
It is above Mansions of Madness, which I don't want to like give away things for top 10s and stuff. But it actually blows Mansions of Madness away for a couple different reasons. But
so we're gonna clip this part and just loop it a whole bunch after this.
So I completely see your point with cooperative games, and that's why I don't like Pandemic. I played, and you couldn't tell if you looked at my BGG play counts because they're in the hundreds.
Because you've probably played it a ton,
But like we've completely played Pandemic Legacy Season 2 and 1, and now we're playing 0, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
But I think games like Mansions of Madness, even that Cthulhu game we played, Unfathomable, those, and Dead of Winter, and the Dead of Winter style games that are out there from the same company, the piratey one, get close to removing that quarterback.
Right.
Because you have to do your own thing, because you might not be doing something other people want you to be doing.
Trust me, it happens every time.
Yeah.
I lose that game every time.
And Spirit Island could be that way. Like, you could have a quarterback, but it'd be very, very... I don't know. I think it'd be very hard.
Okay.
It is a very difficult game. And the Guardians you play in it are very asymmetric. Like, very. So there's almost no way that your opponent or the person you're playing with is really going to know how to utilize your Guardian. So I think that is what makes it epic, because they're like, I don't know, can you do something over here? And you're like, well, maybe, let me see. They can't actually tell you to do it. You just have to do what's best for your Guardian, which may not be what they want. Because you'll see. If you get to play it, you'll see. It's really, really good. I'm super excited to show you guys that game.
Well, that was a lot. That was a lot on what kind of player I am. What about you guys?
Well, let's
I think I cut Dan off earlier because Dan was going to jump in there, but I cut
let's
him
do
off.
Dan. He's waving and all sorts of stuff.
Oh, you want to do me? So there's two kinds of experiences that I'm looking for when I'm sitting down to a game. One's kind of obvious from my background as a Magic Gathering player, and that's like I really enjoy games that allow me to make cool combos, whether those combos end up either explosive or just like small bits of incremental value that happen turn over turn. Either one of those will attract me to a game. You can see that in the other games that I like I like a lot of deck builders, and I like 51st State, and I like Glory to Rome, which is really explosive. The other kind of like experience that I'm after is basically anything that's like got a cool narrative behind it. Right? And that narrative isn't necessarily narrative in the form of like text that you read or like events that take place, or like the game doesn't necessarily need a story arc, but like the game generates events that the players can talk about later is another way that it can manifest itself.
Yeah, I can see I can see that. Like I believe you like games like even like Seventh Continent. I think you actually tried that game longer than normal just because of how much potential it had to having like an epic experience and stuff and a good story to it. But yeah, I could definitely see that. Where did you do Maracaibo, the where you did the campaign?
We are playing Maracaibo with the campaign. We actually haven't finished the storyline yet. We're like 10 games in, and we haven't finished the storyline yet. And once we're done with the storyline, I think there's a second storyline buried somewhere in the expansion. I have to take a second look at that.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I played that game with Nathan, and I thought it was pretty good. So I only played one game though, so I have to play it some more.
Maracaibo is my favorite Vistra game.
Wow, that's because it's probably his best. Oh, I meant that in a bad way. No, I'm kidding. He's fine. It's great. So we got the three of us left here. So we got Nathan. Do you want to talk about yours?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I am definitely a button pusher. I like to see what this does. I like, okay, what does this mechanic do? What does that mechanic do? I like use a different strategy every time. If I ever win a game, and especially if I win by a lot, I will probably never use that strategy again because I want to try something new. So I like games that, especially sandbox games that give you lots of options, lots of different ways to try to go for a victory. Even like, especially like Euro games, even, okay, if I try to monopolize this one resource, can I win that way? Oh, that kind of just that and exploration ties into that too. So it's like, I do really like games that allow you to expand your map, explore, turn things over and see what shows up, and just trying something new and looking around.
Yep, I could definitely see that in your picks and stuff, where you like that multiple strategy style game where you can pick different routes and stuff. So, how about you, Evan?
So I'll kind of go over three things there. So for me, primarily being a historical war gamer and liking historical war game board games too. What I really like is when I can sit down at the table, play these games, and I can talk, facts about said historical time with somebody. And I just find that absolutely fascinating to do. If I get the guy that will, say, well, on that tank, it only had 14 rivets on there, but the one that you have painted has 12. Well, I'm going to give him the middle finger and keep on playing. I don't like him. But, if you're going to talk to me about something I learned today about the 151st PA Regiment from Gettysburg, like I learned some stuff about that today. Like sitting around playing a Gettysburg game and learning about that, I would be thrilled to death for that. So like I always have that thirst to learn something new. I love random bits of trivia they stick in my brain better than, what I had for lunch yesterday, or, what I did, 2 weeks ago. Couldn't tell you any of that, but, could I spout off random historical things? Absolutely. So I really like that. For me, also, when it gets to the regular board games, I moved from before, wanting to play games that had multiple paths to victory, like try and calculating, if I do this move with this move with this move, I should net 37 points, and that should put me 3 ahead, and doing all that before. Like, I like to do crunching the numbers and figuring that out. Sometimes that would lead me to staring at the board for 10 minutes and people would go insane. And with that issue, amongst other things, through years of help with some therapy, I have managed to learn how to shut that part of my brain down. And now I, for lack of better terms, go on more impulsive things when I play to have a better experience. So when I'm playing the games, I don't really care if I'm winning or if I'm losing. I just want to feel the narrative of the game and enjoy the experience of playing the game with the people I'm with. So narrative-based games, if it has a good theme and it implements it very well, I'm in. I'm absolutely 100% in. The slight change is that is if I'm playing games with my kids. That just changes to, instead of the theme of the game and the experience of the game, watching their experience. If they are enjoying it, then I'm in on that too. It could be the worst game in the world, but if they love it, I will play with them and I'll play that game 100 times.
Yep, I can definitely see that from the games you like and what you do. So that's cool. So I'm going to try to narrow myself down because I know what type of gamer I am. I just don't know how to explain it very well. So the first thing is I'm primarily a thematic gamer. I was not a thematic gamer to start, but I am a thematic gamer. I will go over games and I will love them if I feel in my head that there's a theme. That doesn't actually mean there is a theme. So what I mean by that is, like, I feel that for myself, Concordia and Lords of Waterdeep is a thematic experience for me. They are not, but they are for me. I really feel like I'm engaged in the game and I'm doing the things that it says I'm doing. So in my head, I can make it happen, and I enjoy the game, and I love interacting with the other players and having that happen. On the flip side, I'm also a light game player, or more of like a casual gamer too. So I really love, on the flip side, I really love like trick-taking games. I really love roll and writes and simple trick-taking games. Like I like The Crew. I like playing Skull King, which is an Oh Hell variant with people. Like I can play that forever just because it's so much fun to play with a group of people. I love bidding games. I love all that stuff. So that's my other half. That's my non-thematic half. That's my just, I want to play a cool game with people that doesn't take a lot of time and I can explain real easily. So I don't know if that makes sense, but basically that's what I've become. I've become either light or thematic. I do still have a little bit in my heart, definitely for Euro games. So I will always 100% play a Euro game, but I try to make a theme in it, even if it doesn't have one, just so I can get more into it. But that's basically my style.
Yeah, I feel like we've all become more omni-gamers. It's just as the nature of being together, being separate people that have separate tastes. We've influenced each other enough. We play pretty much every game. I love every game almost, except for games where you have to have rulers. Sorry, Evan.
Well, I don't mind them.
We're gonna play Rommel. It's a miniature game that has 0 measuring in it.
There you go. I don't know. Art's actually art and iconography has become more important to me now in board games too. I'm becoming a little bit more of a like an art snob for games. No, it doesn't have to be amazing, but it just needs to fit. And it's getting harder for me to get into games like Concordia is amazing, and I'm glad I got into it. But it's harder for me to be like, I'm excited. Let's play this first game. So I think that gives me like a bad opinion before I even start the game. And the game could be amazing. So I keep trying to work past that. I used to not care, and I used to not even care what the game was. I just wanted the strategy. But unfortunately for me, it's still a struggle. For some of the games where I look at it, I'm like, this thing looks like they didn't even try. So that gets into the next topic, which is sort of a good segue from this topic, is how did your preferences change? So as new games came in, and you saw your Dune Imperium or you saw your Settlers of Catan came in, over the years, how much has your gaming preferences changed? I mean, I'll start off with me real quick because I sort of just already talked about it. When I first started out, especially with MTG and stuff, I was all about the mechanics. I was all about the stats. I was all about minning and maxing. When I got into board games, it was the same. It was straight from MTG to min and maxing. I was all about the Euros. I was all about strict rules, and I was all about no luck. I didn't like luck. Settlers of Catan was rough for me because it had luck because it's rolling the dice. But I went into a lot of other Euros that didn't. One of my first favorite games was Lords of Waterdeep that had no luck. Other than like drawing cards from a random deck, that's fine. Rolling dice, no. And oddly, Stone Age was one of my favorite games, and that does have rolling dice, and that was one of the only ones I was willing to like play constantly that had rolling dice. You can mitigate it. It was one of the first games that had a lot of mitigation for rolling your dice, because you can get those axes and stuff. But then I evolved into thematic games when I went more into the experience of playing the games with the people around me than actually just trying to win the game. That also made me, like Evan, an impulsive player. So everyone knows I just take my turns really quick. I already know what I'm doing. I'm just doing it. I don't care. Like I'll change my mind on the fly sometimes, but it's happening. I'm not gonna sit there and think about like how I could get more points. This is what it feels right now. I'm doing it. So yeah.
I was gonna say I can't say that mine has changed all that much. I mean, again, looking back to Betrayal being one of the first games that like really made me want to play games. There's a lot of player interaction happening in Betrayal, especially as you know you're already talking to each other as you explore the house, and then there's the betrayer, and then now there's the gotcha part of the game. So I think the only thing that's really changed for me over the years is that I have found more games that have different types of player interaction. And so, being introduced to RPGs about 6 or 7 years ago just blew my mind with the amount that you have there. So I think for me, if anything, it's just solidified. My preference has at this point solidified that is what I go for. I don't care as much about the mechanics of the game. I just want that the game involves players interacting with each other. Now, if the mechanics are cool, then that's great. Like I've learned to really love worker placement games. I think that I enjoy that because there's a lot of decision making that goes on there. And plus, again, if I know, I know that they're going to need to go to that spot, does that benefit me so I can take it from them? That's awesome. Then that's great too. But I think for me, over the years of playing so far, it's just solidified that I want there to be player interaction more times than not. So I wouldn't say that mine has changed a whole lot.
Mine has definitely expanded quite a bit. I started off as preferring like the strict Euros, especially worker placements, and I still really enjoy those, and I do enjoy like the longer form games quite a lot. I've gotten into more of the sandbox because I didn't even know those existed long ago when I started. But a lot of the games that I would have had nothing to do with, I've started playing. So all these shorter luck-based games, I wouldn't have touched, 5-6 years ago. I do really enjoy something like Quacks and Quiddling Bird. I really enjoy that game, but 5 years ago I probably would have not even tried it and just like, oh, that's just a light family intro game that for people who don't really play games. It's kind of that snobbishness has kind of gone away. Party games, we used to say, my James said it a lot of times too, it was like party games are not really games, but it's like once you actually play a few of them, some of them are actually pretty good and can be quite enjoyable with the right crowd.
I do like Wits and Wagers, so there's one.
I get to be the guy who says I really like party games because there's always player interaction with party games.
Coup's not a game.
I too like party games, just because you don't have to think.
No, I can just be in a group of people and we're all yelling at each other, laughing, having a good time. If I want, I can do code names. I enjoy code names. I can play just one. You talk about the simplest of games. Just one is so simple, but I can use it at work as like a staff building, exercise, and I can just play it with friends and have a blast. I played it over, via Zoom and everything. So I love a good party game.
Just One is really good. I like that one. I also love Codenames. Codenames is amazing.
So fun.
Yeah, they're both fun. I don't like the micro games mainly. So I don't like and I don't like Love Letter. I don't like Coup. I don't like those type of games.
I still get into them.
Coup, I will literally be the worst player. I put them both down. I never look at the cards.
Yeah,
Ever look at the cards.
I still really struggle with any social deduction games because I cannot
Werewolf.
read people.
I hate Werewolf. I hate Werewolf in any form. Mafia or whatever you want to call it. I hate it. I hate it, hate it, hate it. I hate Apples to Apples. I hate any clone of Apples to Apples. That's not a game. That is not a game. There's nothing in an Apples to Apples that's a game. And I don't care what clone you have, it's not a game. It's just a Dixit. Why? Dixit. Seriously.
But you love Dixit.
All that is my daughter's mocking me. That's all it is. Like, I'm going to do this thing. It's going to be like anime blah, 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 episode 4, scene 3. Ooh. Like, I have no idea what that is.
Sorry, James. I didn't quite catch that. I didn't quite understand if you liked it or not.
No. But there are ones I like. Codenames is awesome, like you said. Just One is amazing. I really like that where you can't have the same name word. That's amazing. It's so cool. Then you have to think of different words. And what's hilarious is you do, and you're like, no one ever guessed this word, flip. What?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Why did that person come up also with the word mitosis? No one should have come up with mitosis. That was just mine.
Yeah. I even had like a VeggieTale reference for something that wasn't even related to the word, but was like related in that way because I knew that the person knew about VeggieTales. And the other person did it. And I'm like, come on. Now we only have one word. There's no way in heck he's going to get it because it doesn't even make sense.
Yep.
Great game. So
that was a good segue.
You win this round, dear sir. You win.
I do need to play that at some point.
I think Dan's left. Or is that
yeah, I guess. So like in terms of I was thinking about this as you guys were all arguing about party games. In terms of what my favorite games are, I don't think that has evolved over time because I've always been a guy who is interested in assembling cool combos or experiencing a good story. But like I have had a chance to explore the rest of what gaming has to offer, and also been exploring various kinds of games more in depth than I would otherwise be available or, do. In that respect, I've certainly consumed more games, and I want to I want to say that I'm pretty open to new experiences. So you come at me with something that's like, oh, let's do this, and it's something I've never tried before. I'm usually like, all right, well, I'll at least give it a try. There's a couple things that I will like straight up stay away from, like because if it involves like grabbing an object from the center of the table or slapping hands or anything that's like reflex oriented, I'm not game for that game, whatever that game is.
What, you don't like Happy Salmon? It's horrible.
I don't know.
I'm not familiar with that title. No.
I am very much pro violence in my games.
Whether it's in the rules or not.
Yeah.
All right, so I think Evan already went, right?
No.
Oh, we're skipping Evan. That's not right.
That
Evan,
was sad.
Go ahead. I suppose you can go now. You're on mute, bud.
Yeah, you're muted.
Oh, so like I said earlier, before like trying to min max and trying to figure out like maximum points, that was the thing I would do. So I'd play games that would be in the vein of, Terraforming Mars, where you have a team pass to victory with so many different combinations and different ways you can do that you can maximize how you're going to win. And that was my jam before. And I think where I figured out I had a problem with this was playing Monopoly 3.5. And I had 7 books out in front of me looking at trying to build this character, and like not even like the current level that we were on, but like my progression through the next like 10 levels, like what magic equipment do I want to do? And I spent probably a good hour doing this, and I go, this isn't fun. I took all the fun out of the game. Did I build a potentially really cool character? Yeah, I did, but it just took a lot of the experience out of the game. So working through some of that, I've learned to just enjoy the game as it's presented in front of you. Whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. Enjoy the game in front of you. So that's why I've gone to different themed games. Like one that's sitting next to me that I did an unboxing for, a bunch of the stuff, and I'm super, super excited to play, is Merchants of the Dark Road, because the theme just looks really cool, and how they implement all the different things into it look really awesome. I could care less if I play that game 10 times and lose 10 times. I'm 99% sure I'm going to enjoy that theme of the game and how it plays every single time. Like we have the game day coming up that we're going to play Merchant's Cove. It's going to be the same exact thing. The game looks fantastic. How they implement all the things looks fantastic. We're going to lose every time. I don't care. I shut that part down now, and I just want to enjoy the game, enjoying the experience. So, I mean, it's the biggest change for me. I don't want to sit there and just turn it into a chore of 10 minutes crunching numbers and probability. It's not fun anymore.
Or is it?
Well, now that I'm playing with you, James, I'm going to turn that part of my mind back on so I can crush you by 1 point in many games.
Oh, too soon. Too soon. Just too soon. That's not right. That's not right.
I want to have my name next to Peter's as Victor for many
That's
games.
Right. That's right. We're all going to keep beating James by just 1 point.
I am very sad about that. Anyway, so to the last portion of this, and then you can do open-ended questions after this for each other. But one fun thing about you. So for me, I will say that I'll just go with my background. I'm a software engineer currently, and a lot of what drives me to play board games too, other than playing with you guys and just conventions and fun stuff, is most software engineers turn out play board games, or card games. So I have played many lunch hours with my friends at work, and we play board games at that. So I have a huge list of like games you can play in 60 minutes or less because of that. So I just love writing software. It's like a fun little puzzle, that is ever changing, and you always have to learn stuff because there's thousands of languages and millions of ways of doing things. So that's just a little fun thing about me. And I beat Nathan in every game we've ever played. Every single one. Every one. All of them.
I think Nathan needs to go for next to rebut that.
Yeah, pretty much so. Under the bus.
I think Everdell's the only game you've ever beat me at, and that was because you were just
that
awful
was
person.
epic. That was the best betrayal ever. I will never forget that game, and I will never forget the look on your face. Oh, that was so good. That was so good. That was so good.
Oh, yeah, no, that still hurts. Probably more than Peter beating you by 1 point. Something interesting about me, I am definitely a big cinephile. Before I got into board gaming, I was definitely heavily into old movies. Even I've watched a lot of old, like the early like 1890s, even in 1910, 1920s, when they were just first inventing this film. And one of my favorite, directors and film guys is George Méliès, who is actually inventing special effects at the same time film was being invented. So very few people in the world had ever even seen a moving picture, and he's figuring out how to do, jump cuts and have severed heads running around and having double images and ghosts on the screen, and he's doing insane, unheard of things on a new media. And I even actually got his autobiography that was like lost for years, and I got a translated copy of it up in my room. But yeah, I love old cinema.
Yeah. That's a pretty cool thing to be interested in. I really don't watch a ton of movies anymore, but I think the whole idea is fascinating. How about you, Peter? I know you're a librarian and active loser of games to me. So.
Active loser of games. That's right. That's right. So I was trying to think of like just a single thing that would be, I guess, fun and interesting. I am also a movie person. I love watching tons of movies, but I guess I can go with the generic. I am a librarian because I love to be around people and books. And so, it's nothing unique, but I am a huge fantasy fan, epic fantasy. And so I'm constantly looking for really great series to read and or listen to the audiobooks of. And so I would say, if I'm going to just throw something out there that kind of goes in with this, is probably the series that I've loved the most recently, because I could obviously say that I love Tolkien. But if I'm going to go with the series that I love the most right now, I would probably say Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. It's a 6-book series. I thought it was phenomenal. The way that he kind of breaks down the series into almost 2 trilogies, but they definitely have to be read all together. There was a lot of twists and turns in that one that I did not see coming, and I thought it was a really well done series. But yeah, I love being around books. I love reading, and that would be just one thing to know about me.
Also a fellow Brandon Sanderson fan, so that's always good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Huge Brandon Sanderson fan.
How about you, Dan?
Well, I have the unique pleasure of being branded as something of a game leader in one way, shape, or form. Not only as my role as a certified Magic judge in that community, but as a game group organizer / facilitator and assistant manager at New Dimension Comics. That's not the only fun thing about me, though, because I consider myself a game creator. I created my own RPG and ran it with kids at a summer camp for some number of years, and I still have ongoing projects that I dig out of my file folders and work on every now and then. So,
Didn't you help make a scenario for Concordia too, or what game was that?
what it called? I was working on a solo mode for Concordia that never actually materialized 100%. I did develop a solo mode for Last Will, the board game, which is posted on the Geek, and I think that's currently my only board game credit. I might be mistaken.
That's awesome though.
Yeah,
I
that's really cool.
props to anybody who can actually create these things that I love, because I am not a creator in that way. So I think it's awesome.
All right, now to throw Evan under the bus. Evan, the bus is coming for you.
Beep beep. So I mean, just I don't really have a whole lot of exciting things. I'm not a super exciting person. I'll just throw a couple things out there. So very proud, first generation Filipino American. My mom and dad. My dad's American. My mom was born in the Philippines. They met while he was in the service. So I was born in Hawaii. So very proud of my heritage. Where we came from. Yeah, I'm kind of a jack of all trades. I have worked upteenth amount of jobs. Anything from I've been in finance. I'm currently in insurance. Worked at a bank. I've worked at a gas station. Construction. I've done so many things. I think part of the problem of never staying at something is my ADD. I get very bored very easily. So, but I finally found something I'm very happy with what I'm doing. So I'm going to be there, God willing, a long time. But between that and I have started to gather a large board game collection, but also I have a very large miniature game collection. And it is slowly taking over a good portion of my house. The downside to that is my wife is a English teacher for Armstrong School District, and being much like Peter, having this small problem of collecting books, that too is also overrunning my house, as we have the joke with my wife of she sure knows how to fill a bookshelf. It is uncanny, but yeah. So we have just collections of things like that in our house.
That's not a bad thing.
We're running out of space.
You're supposed to say just in case she's watching. No.
In case she's watching, I love you, honey, and there is not a problem with the amount of books you have. I will get rid of some of my board games.
That's a horrible thing to say. That I just no.
You just kind of hold a coffee cup like this, right? And then say, "This is fine," as the room burns behind you, right?
Exactly.
So, anybody have any questions or anything you want to bring out about anybody here that may be funny or cool? Dan works at NDC.
So one thing that I would like to actually ask the question, just especially to be a good question for people that haven't been following us for a long time, with you, James, and Nathan starting this. So where did this channel start?
You know what? I don't even remember. I think it was just Nathan and I one day was like, oh, it'd be really cool to do a podcast on board games. And we were like, all right, let's do it. And Nathan was like, I have money. I'm like, okay, let's do it.
That is actually pretty
they basically produced crap until I joined around episode 12 or 13, though, by the way.
And then they added me in and it went back downhill. It's just,
at the bottom of the hill they found me, and that's where we've stayed.
Yeah, I like to say it was like some glamorous thing, but it was like, hey, let's do something together. What are we gonna do? A podcast. And you're like, okay, well, this is gonna be difficult. And then we just got it started, and then it just went from there. Part of the problem is Nathan's always somewhere else.
Yeah.
So it was hard to do anything with my brother because like he's either in Singapore or Germany or God knows where, West Virginia of all places for a little while. Like why?
I mean, who goes there?
I know, it's just like it should just not exist as a state.
Seems
If you're listening from West Virginia,
for those of you who don't know, I am from West Virginia.
Oh, well, I didn't know. Oh my, just slipped my mind. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
And James had the idea that we'd be making lots of money after the first year or so, and be able to actually.
No.
We weren't that disillusioned at all. No.
My whole thing's been a 5-year thing, so not that we're going to be rich or anything. My whole thing was to be self-sufficient within 5 years. And actually, my original plan was to get a free board game from a publisher to review within 5 years.
Oh.
Yeah,
well, good job.
So, like, now I get them
well
every
done.
day. So, it's like...
They won't stop.
They won't stop. Yeah, I never thought I'd be like, here, have board games. All these board games. You want a board game? Too bad. But yeah, that's the whole unfortunate. Like, it's not amazing or anything. It was just something to do with my brother, and that was it.
No, I think that's pretty awesome. You had something you wanted to do, and you guys just did it. There's a lot of people out there who have ideas like that, and then they're like, I probably can't make that happen, and they let it go. So
yeah,
and it's still going, and it's successful so far.
It's a lot of fun.
So far, yeah. I mean, the big thing is it's fun. It got me to meet new people. It got me to be able to play different games and new games. It's really cool to see your guys' opinion on games, and you definitely brought games to my attention that I would never have thought of before or played, honestly, at all. And I had a lot of fun. So I really think that's the super interesting part of it, and a big benefit to having everybody on here is just all the collective ideas and stuff. But
Yeah, I've definitely liked how this channel has grown. And it's like, as we said, it's like it started with just me and James. And it's like we got, guests to come on, and they just stayed.
Yeah, you can't get rid of us now.
yeah, I really like
Pick
that
up a
part.
bad penny.
Yeah, I really wanted to have like a couple core people that had different opinions and came from different backgrounds, because I think it's important, because having one person or two people with pretty much creates a stagnant dialogue. So
If we can just get somebody to move their Monopoly tonight, they could be on this more often.
I know. I mean, geez, seriously.
Oh, Peter's here. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. So I guess for the rest of you, what is the thing you like the best? Because we're not going to talk about the worst. What is the thing you like the best, or the best experience you had basically doing this? So what do you think is the most rewarding thing, other than getting to see my face?
I was gonna say other than obviously meeting more people, which I've stated I like doing. You guys have introduced me to so many different types of games that I've then fallen in love with, and now I'm introducing other people to them. And so probably for me, that's probably the most rewarding. I mean, you guys don't know. I mean, I have people who are constantly like, okay, Pete, what's the next game you're going to tell me about? And these are people that I know in person. I see them regularly. I've got one couple that, like, every time they go out of town now, they're like, okay, what's the next 2-player game that you're going to tell us about? And their board game collection is slowly growing due to that. And so it's just given me another language to talk to people with. And and I think that's a lot of fun.
So what was well, maybe not your favorite game necessarily, but what was the most surprising game in a way that you enjoyed it a lot that you've played recently? Or because of this?
I think I would say, because I didn't really have much experience with it, was the fact that there are 2-player games that can be incredibly engaging. Again, growing up, 2-player games were like, let's sit down with a 52 card deck and play War together, or maybe let's play Stratego. I just didn't have a lot of experience with strictly 2-player games. And then I was introduced to Seven Wonders Duel. I think Nathan just kept talking about it again and again and again until I was like, okay, I've really got to sit down and try this game. And I love it. And now I'm just like, oh, there's so many really good 2-player games out there. So that would be one of the ones that I would say that's the one that you guys have introduced me to that I have probably now played the most. I've had to have played Seven Wonders Duel probably 20 to 30 sometimes at this point, which for me that's a ton.
Yeah.
I'm not James and play games 1,000 times.
Well, that's from playing it every single night.
That's what I'm saying. I don't get to play it I don't get to play games that often. So, but that's probably one of the games / styles of games that I was introduced to, which is great because at home it's just me and my wife. So I need 2-player games, and that's great.
Yeah. How about you, Evan or Dan?
So funny enough, I mean, the best experience has been the fact that James keeps on messaging me and saying, "Here, have this game." And the reason for that is it's given me a bunch more games and some of them games that I never even would have heard of or experienced otherwise. And they're games that I can play with my wife or I can play with my kids and just enjoy the experience and watch them enjoy it. I think that's probably one of the best experiences that I can have.
Yeah, I really like. I love playing with other people and stuff, but I really, really enjoy playing the board games with my wife. So it's really nice to have something in my family when I can get them to do it. It's really nice to have those, and my 3-year-old and my 5-year-old definitely are really fun to play board games with. Short attention spans, so it's rough because like we start this game and they're like, yeah, I'm gonna be trading things and getting the little berries and my first Stone Age, and then like 5 minutes later it's like, okay, we gotta keep going. The game's not over yet.
No, I'm done.
Please take the berry out of your nose.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a lot of fun, and they really are super excited about it. So I like to keep that energy going because they'll play longer and longer games eventually. But yeah,
They'll have collections bigger than Uncle Nathan, and
maybe. I mean, some of my daughters are working on getting pretty large collections. So one of them has like almost my level, like 150 games.
Somebody's going to inherit those games.
Well, they're already theirs. So, I try not to I mean, I don't actually give them a lot of the games that I give away because they just end up in the same house, and that sort of defeats the purpose. They could be great games, but you know, they got enough. They're good. They can play mine. I hope everyone enjoyed learning about all the different hosts for Tabletop Gaming Guild. These are the 5 founders of Tabletop Gaming Guild. We hope you enjoyed the show a lot, and I hope you learned a little bit more about us, so at least you can understand where we're coming from when we review games, or you watch any of our videos on our YouTube channel, or you watch this. So, I'll have a good night, and thank you for watching.